Yeah.
Slavery.
All right. Well, I've
Yeah, duh.
started the recording, but this first part can get deleted off. But anyway, so ready? Where's the guy with that little chop thing? You know, like the action.
I'll
The
try to
chop
bring
thing.
some
Yeah.
weird Swedish director to do it.
All right. Parker, clap.
How do I hold push to talk and clap? I'll slap myself. How about that? You
Yeah,
ready?
do that.
Yeah,
do
do
that.
it.
You can whistle.
No.
No, I didn't hear
Alrighty.
that, mate. You'll have to hit yourself hard.
Yeah, you need to hit it harder, Parker.
About 5 times.
I swear to God.
You need to be closer
Just
to your mic.
whistle.
Okay, right. Well, welcome to the first European Battle Line Network podcast. I know he's expanding. He's a what would you call Eagle for expanding to the European side?
Colonizer.
He's a colonizer, just like the Brits. What a good guy. We've got a nice little lineup today. So starting off, we have Gareth
Hey, how you doing? I'm taking the command of AMV.
and Parker.
Hello. Yeah, 6th New York Cavalry, commanding NCO.
And we have Danny.
Hello, one of the leaders of the 8th Florida and currently the USC chairman.
Victorian Victor.
Hello, Victor. Captain of the Fort New Jersey and also community chairman of the Historical Rules event.
Did you say victim?
No, Victor.
I thought
God damn
I
it.
thought you called yourself Victor. No.
Yeah, I am a victim for being here.
And for some reason, for my Discord, it cuts your name out. It just says P dot dot dot. But we have
Oh,
Pollock.
Victor. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I'm Polak, head of A&V.
Wow.
Nah, just kidding. Head of HD.
And you have myself as Guardian Eagle. I mean, shit.
Wait
Sorry.
a minute.
Oh, dude.
Yes, I'm Killer. God save the king. All right. So today's podcast is, as it's the first European podcast, we are doing the introduction to the European side of War of Rights, how it works and how it differs. So, to start this off, we've kind of gotten an organized mix here. We've kind of picked people out by head based on their kind of War of Rights play style, so we can get a nice broad understanding. So, we're going to go through the list and pretty much so when it comes to the European side of the War of Rights, would you say there are multiple different play styles slash events in general?
I would say so. I think there are differences between like how you would play it when it comes to different events. For example, I think that historical rules event in UEC plays quite a lot alike. While, for example, there are events like Generals at War that plays a little bit more fast-paced style, and I know Grand Campaign also plays a little bit more fast-paced style. But I think there's some differences, but I would say there are things that combine them, or um, you know, basically combine them together, and they have some things that are common within everyone, but some things that are divided.
Yeah, there really is no unifying description of European events. It's probably the first big myth to dispel. Europeans don't just march around at quick time. The only events that really do that is when we do like the big reenactment events and we have like a script in place. But if you actually go to probably the some of the biggest events on the weekends, you have UEC, you have Grand Campaign, you have HRE. You'll see there's literally 101 different play styles across them. And there's a lot of regiments that come to them, which may even come from, let's say, an NA background, or maybe a faster paced background. And they come to the European side of things and they either play the same way because the event allows it, or they even tailor their play style to the event. Like in HRE, at least for the first 10 minutes, it's a bit more decelerated now. And there's units like AMV that come along. And I'm sure you guys, when you first came, thought, what the hell's going on? But since you've been here, it's actually been a lot better. And I think you guys seem to enjoy it as much as we do. So, yeah, there really is a massive breadth on the EU side.
Our first time doing HRE, we played like I think it was might have been one of the conquest ones on do you know that Colquitt's one, the conquest? What's it
Rocky
called again?
Slopes.
Yeah,
Rocky
yeah,
Slopes.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
played like a UEC event. Like we were just in line, like a big line the whole time, just like, and it was like we tried to be as historical as possible. And then we saw like obviously with HRE, the majority of units are normally like around 10 to 15, I would say. So you can't necessarily always do like big liney stuff, whereas in UEC we did that. Oh, we did that a couple months ago now. We try and get one UEC event in every now and again when they allow us, because it is kind of fun to get a big organized line battle. But
I
yeah,
mean,
we kind of over time kind of still started to play how we usually play, but still by the rules. We pretty much we definitely hop on the HRE rules. We're on that line. We try not to cross
Uh,
it, but we definitely bounce on it.
there's quite a big misconception about the EU actually that we like to play only by the rules and actually not allow us to play the game as it is. But to be honest, if you read the rules, like so when you start playing, for example, in the UEC, and we majority sees it, and I believe the HRE as well, you have two types. Either the regiment will totally not obey the rules, meaning that they will just play it like public, or they will obey the rules to the point that they will be static because they will be afraid to move, that they will, I don't know, like break the lines or whatever.
Yeah.
But really, the rules are just simple. Like, just stay in line. I mean, if it breaks, it breaks. Like, it's not real life. It's not a big deal. We do not enforce the rules as people think that we do. So,
Last time
yeah.
we did UEC, it wasn't a very good time because the maps weren't great. It was Otto Sherrick Farm and Roulette Lane. So it was like Otto and Sherrick Farm is just like, we were watching the right hand side of the house, so it was just getting shot by artillery and being like, oh well, we're not just gonna keep running away because that's not historic. You gotta march towards the cannon fire.
Honestly, UEC, I think. In fact, Danny, I don't know if you have access to it, but a good way to dispel the myth on the European side is, I think, as far as I'm aware, UEC is the most casualties I've seen in the game. Like there was a couple
Oh,
of
yeah.
games on like Piper Farm where it was non-stop, like deaths everywhere, and it wasn't just by standing and shooting. It was units constantly maneuvering, shooting,
Charging,
melee
different
everywhere. It
countries.
was
Yeah.
so intense. It
I
was
think
crazy.
I think the thing with the historical type events is a lot of the deaths are in formation, so you can get a
Yeah,
high volume
absolutely.
of them. Whereas in normal events, when there's maybe a lot more charging and stuff, and a lot more like running around, it can lead to a lot more skirmishing and outer liners, which ends the game faster with less casualties. Whereas in like UEC, I think when we did it, it got to like 1,000 casualties almost both sides on Otto
Yeah,
Sherrick Farm of all maps,
yeah,
and it was
exactly.
because it was like 800 in formation deaths,
And
which was
someone kept on leading us straight into the cannon fire. There were bits of A and B spread all over that field.
I mean,
Well,
like for example, when it comes to I think both HRE and UEC, we do not advise for like stupid ideas to just like slowly to walk towards a cannon just to keep formation.
yeah.
Usually, it's more of an okay, get the guys over there to the double quick, and then just like form up and then fight in lines over there. Basically, don't just blob up or spread out in that regard unless you are skirmishers, etc. I think it's more of that. We want to fight in both single file and two ranks.
Oh, what just happened? It died. It died.
Um, yeah, no,
There we go.
I think that you can still be quite mobile though. That's the thing.
My thing
Now
died
in the
for a second.
UEC, do you guys use any form of Steam chat or like TeamSpeak to communicate with other units, or you guys just like running carriers or
Hold
just
on.
trying to communicate on field in game
They don't
messengers.
There we go.
messengers on HRE and
messengers?
UEC as well.
I fixed it.
This is what
Okay.
I don't know
differentiates
what happened there for a
mostly
second.
the I guess I can say like the NA sides, because yes, we do have rules which kinda breaks the whole like the game, but we don't use this. We don't even use discords. The only thing why we use discords or TeamSpeak is if a guy gets lost, like a recruit or somebody.
Right, naturally.
Then yeah, but otherwise only messengers, and the whole fog of waters just plays into the play as well. Like I don't know if you're friendly just gonna get slaughtered on some flank. You just don't, if you don't see it, you don't know. So that's the other thing.
Pollock,
I was gonna
as
say
a
I've never dabbled in the UEC. We've played HRE is about the closest extent to that. I'm kind of the outlier in this group.
yeah,
Me and my group's
as an
majority
as an
NA type
NA
of ordeal,
as an
the
NA
North
guy.
American community. But we do cater to the Europeans that we have in HD, so we do dabble into some European events.
Yeah, as an NA guy, what's your first
But at
opinions
the
when
same
someone
time, we'll
says
also
like
have more
European
events like
community?
Generals of War and Grand Campaign, which are more fast-paced. Now, I haven't been to Grand Campaign in quite a while, so Gareth and Killer, I suppose you can speak for what you guys do in Grand Campaign.
Yeah. Um, real
Like if
quick,
there's any difference when
Victor,
it comes to those kind of things.
Victor. Yeah, it's doing it.
I don't think Victor can hear you. I may be wrong, but
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, can anyone else hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can all hear you.
What about Danny
Oh, I
and
can't
Victor?
Oh,
hear
god
him
damn
either.
it. Why can't I hit Killer?
No, I know what happened. 1 second. Hold on. You guys stay there. This will all get cut out. Don't worry.
Is it just Victor? Everyone else can hear him?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I
it's
can't
just
hear
I
me.
him
cannot.
either.
If you can.
All right.
God
Picture
damn it.
shit.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
we can hear you.
There we
we
go. Yeah,
I
I
was gonna say,
accidentally
I kept trying
clicked.
to speak.
So I accidentally clicked on the VC on my phone, and it kind of screwed everything up. For like,
Glitched?
it's
Yeah.
only been like 2 minutes, so it's okay. The rest of the group didn't. I mean, it'll probably like just cut that last like 30 seconds out. But on what I was gonna say was, so Pollock, from an outside, like, you don't really do many historical rule stuff other than HRE, pretty much the same as us. What's your like first impressions of like, or like what first comes to mind when someone says like historical rules or UEC events, like from a North American standpoint, since you guys are majority North American?
Um, it's just a slower pace feel. Um, I couldn't do all of my events that way. Um, not saying there's anything wrong with your the rule set or anything like that. Is it a nice refresher when you hit like an HRE event, and I'm sure UEC being extremely similar? Is it a nice refresher from the North American as far as like when you have to line lead or you have to communicate in Steam chat because you get there's times where we have three chats going on at the same time, it depending on what individual you are. So after an event, 2 hours or hour and a half, your brain just wants to melt for a little bit. You don't want to play another game. You
Oh,
just kind of want
definitely.
to be done.
Doing the NA events. That's why I love Saturday NA, because they don't use Steam chat.
Yep.
Because Friday and Sunday NA Steam chat can be
It can
absolute.
get wild.
It's horrible.
That and Steam chat sucks. I mean, I'm sure we're all in agreement. We've all used Steam
Yep.
chat. It's pretty shit.
When Gareth leads and I'm not there, poor VA has to go in Steam chat for him.
I need an interpreter. People can't hear me, and I can't hear them.
When we actually changed the rules when it comes to in HRE and we did like rebranding in that regard, I remember me and Parker, like everyone agreed, no Steam chats at all, please, for the love of God. I don't want to have three people pinging at the same time, basically, because that is annoying.
Especially for HRE, because as Killer said earlier, there's a few big units in HRE, but there's also a lot of smaller size units.
Yeah.
So if you imagine like literally on each side having 10 voices at any one given time, ain't nobody want to play like that.
Oh, God.
So
Nah, it's hard enough when you have to do one of those mid HRE little officer meetups on a rock somewhere.
I
And
love
everyone's
those. Killer, where are we?
Yeah.
We're all dead. Nice.
Do we still
Now,
follow the plan? God damn it! Okay, are we changing around to the right? Oh, okay.
it's
my
Actually, that
only
happened on Sunday, didn't it? Actually, that was
Yeah,
quite
it
funny.
did.
Do
It
you remember
did.
on Sunday, Killer, when I was like left up there by myself? I ran back and everyone's behind, and you were like, "We ran back and you didn't help us." I was like, "I had no idea."
yeah, like we were like on the end. We were on the end of the berm on Bolivar Heights camp. You guys were 20 yards to our right on the double caissons.
Yeah.
And we're all getting charged by hoods. It was actually hood. It was your guys, Pollock. It was your boys, because I heard Cloud's dirty voice, and and I'm like, because I heard one of your guys being like, "Oh look, they're on our left," and I was like, "Come help us!" And then I just look on the death map and there's nothing there, and I'm like, "What the hell, man?" And then you come running back, being like, "How the hell did they get down the berm?" And I was like, "'Cause we got charged. You didn't fucking help us."
Yeah. Well, see, what you didn't see was
Um,
on the other side of the tent. There was two
Yeah,
massive lines volleying just the 88th New York. So we were
Yeah,
like
then
caught between the devil and the
I
hard
do
place.
remember. I do remember when I saw that I was going to actually run down and reinforce you, Killer, and then I saw, I think it was Hood's vision. I just saw a bunch of flags just running from the left to the right, going towards the camp, and I was like, "Oh shit, Wesley's all alone over there." And then I have to run all the way back with my guys and basically reinforce that. And there was like no
yeah.
communication at all. It's like you're basically blind sometimes
It
in those
can
kind of battles.
the no communication events like HRE,
yes.
they can be good because both teams have the same level of communication. However, if they're when things don't always go right in events, sometimes they do, and everything kind of goes according to plan. But when they don't, it can really just be like a game of what the hell are we doing because everyone's just trying to play catch up because the plan has went skew whiff in the first 10 minutes.
And then
Yeah,
there's
but I
that
mean,
also normal move too.
another point of that though is that so many of the maps in War of Rights are massively weighted towards the attackers, especially if they're organized. You take that organization away, and all of a sudden, some of these maps are a little bit more fair. And then
Yes,
maps
I
that
agree.
were only slightly in one side's favor, they're completely fair now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially for like artillery. You think about the maps where you have CSA artillery like over the water on some of the Harper's Ferry maps and things like that. If they can't actually communicate instantly, think about like Graveyard, for example. There's that really good artillery CSA spot. They can fire all along the graveyard. But if they can't actually react or see or speak or whatever, it really mixes it up. And it means some of these maps become a lot closer than you ever think they would be, just because you can't get that instant communication across the entire
Yeah.
field.
Uh,
So
It's
it's
like
quite exciting.
it's like
I
we
know
did
when
we
we're in the woods, um, also NA events, but we've been preaching it a lot more because it seems like it becomes more prevalent in the HRE events. If we're in the woods with somebody, or even if you're in a field, not only myself has been preaching it, but some of my officers and my unit leaders, is if one of our friendlies are being attacked or being charged next to us, don't just stand there, don't fucking run away. Oh shit, I said a bad word. Um, charge them, charge with them. I'd rather die and try to even those tickets out as close as possible with that unit standing there and trying to help those guys out than running away and just letting 16 tickets go by and 3 of those go out of line.
We kind of
Yeah, I
changed
mean,
it.
there are some like fundamentals of leading a regiment in a battle. Like if your friendlies go in, you don't have to see where they're going. You don't have to agree with it or think it's a good idea. If friendlies go in, you go in too. If
Yeah,
friendlies being charged,
completely.
you go help. And the European events like the HRE and stuff are a great place to learn that and then carry that over because that should be what you always do. There should
Yeah,
never be, oh yeah, I saw this charge go in, but I didn't do anything about it.
I will say though, there are some moments. Cause I remember like I don't know months ago in the HRE, we had some charge-heavy officers that would be charging quite a lot on defending maps, and where there's no need, not exactly on
Lucian.
defending maps, but I'm not
Lucian.
gonna name any names.
Excuse me, he who shall not be named. Come on now.
You shall not be named. No. But not only
IV.
Lucian, but
Lieutenant Colonel Lucian.
not only okay, Killer, other regiments as well. But still, they'll be just charging for no reason. And like there's no you can like it's better to just stand there and shoot and just hold the enemy off than charge. You would abandon the point charge just to get a charge off, thinking that numbers will do a difference when it comes to just getting there and then
Hmm.
getting mowed down on the way there, taking quite a lot of tickets. Then I feel like my mentality changed a little bit. Like, because every single time before those kind of situations, I was like, okay, friendly's going in, we have to help them. During those moments, I was like, okay, this is so stupid. I'm not even gonna help this. This is beyond what we even agreed upon. Um, and nowadays, I've been going back to more uh, what I used to do when it comes to the EA friendlies going in. Then we should go in as well. But that's because I don't think there's any specifically like really only charge officer in the HRE or the UEC, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, so we've talked about how the historical aspect of the EU side works. Now, let's diverge over to the slightly non-historical. Well, mainly like the more NA kind of play style, like the faster paced play style, which is like the Friday and Saturday EU events, the Friday community and Saturday grand campaign. No, I don't think any of us in here play Generals at War, so we can't really talk about that one. But that is an event on Sundays, other than HRE, if you don't like the historical aspect. But the historical aspect of HRE is great. You should check it out if you're not already. But
No bias, of course. But
no
yeah.
bias, no bias. But
Well,
yeah,
I
so
mean, to be fair, we did do the Generals at War when you weren't around, Killer.
yeah,
We only did that one event, and everyone really enjoyed it. It is a very good event.
I mean, yeah, that's because you
Although it
guys
kind of
smashed it.
helped that part of it is the fact that there's one like group in charge on any one week, and it was us on the week we did.
Yeah, and you guys smashed them too. Of course, everyone's gonna enjoy that one. I saw that. I saw the video of that guy who like keeps heavily breathing down his microphone and constantly checks tab every 2 seconds. It really annoyed me. I couldn't last.
God damn.
I
But
would say we don't play Grand Campaign anymore, but it actually is one of the most enjoyable styles of events that I've ever done.
So
Obviously
come back to
the
Grand Campaign.
well,
take a
I think I like
take a
Greasy
break
more,
from
to be
take a
honest.
break
But
from historical events. You got that on Friday and Sundays.
well,
I
no, credit where credit's due. The idea of Grand Campaign is still very good. The only thing that marred it for me was just one very specific season. But since then, I don't think you've had the same problems.
Yes,
So
I think
it's not really
everyone.
relevant anymore.
I think
But
everyone remembers the that one specific season.
exactly.
Like
But since
yeah.
then, it's
everything
been
came
fine, hasn't it?
crashing
So
down. I mean, so after that one season of Grand Campaign, we moved over to do a different event, like Altera campaign. Remember that, Gareth?
Yep.
And then
Yes.
Red Dot.
that campaign went tits up when Little Dragon decided to make the board um Lord of the Rings
is it
themed.
like a fantasy thing? Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
that.
and
What?
we were like defending bloody where were we defending again? Minas Tirith or something?
That's a great spot to defend.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, and I was like, that's great, isn't it? But so like Grand Campaign now, it's a lot more simplified in the terms of like there isn't as many rules because the problem with the previous seasons was there was a lot more rules, but that means that there's a lot more rules that get broken, and
Yeah.
then
You
that
still have
means,
Steam Chat.
of course, but that's
God damn
because
it.
it all evolves around one person's token. It's kind of the same as like Generals at War, quote unquote, where there's one regiment in charge of each side on that battle, and it's kind of up to them on the strategy going forward in that event. And obviously, there's the cards that can add battle modifiers and stuff. Like I think last week we did one where we had to do Schoolhouse Ridge, and both sides didn't have officers, even for artillery.
Wow.
Um,
I
and
mean, yeah, sorry, go
there's
ahead.
certain ones that restrict artillery for certain sides and stuff. And I think it's just more of like the reason Grand Campaign, in my opinion, like a lot of guys enjoy Grand Campaign. It's probably one of the more enjoyable ones that we do, is because there's like it gives it something to fight for. You know what I mean? Like if it's your token on the battlefield, then everyone has that extra bit of like motivation to want to do well.
Well, I
Kinda,
mean,
you know
that's
what I
the
mean?
whole point of Grand Campaign, isn't it? It was to give the lads more than just a normal event battle. It's like this actually means something. We are trying to take Washington. We are defending Richmond, whatever.
Yeah.
And it worked really well, and people were getting really involved. I think the problem that Grand Campaign then suffered was that all the leaders who were doing the tokens on the pre-battle thing wanted to get it more and more complicated and more involved, where obviously it doesn't really matter for the vast amount of people in the unit. But it then became there's too many rules and it's too complicated on the board, and that then led to a lot of arguments as well.
Yeah.
And then since a lot of that got stripped away and it's basically back to what it should be, it's doing a lot better, or at least it feels like it is.
Yeah. I mean,
I
back
mean,
when I would have took GC over when bloody agent first stepped away, but the problem with it was I remember when I was working and I wasn't finishing work until like 5 to 8, or I was finishing work at like bang on 8 p.m. and I'd like make it back just for the start of the event, Gareth.
Yeah, I used to go all
Yeah.
excited that I was going to be in charge. And, I know, here he comes. Okay, lads, line up in front of the artillery.
God damn it.
And but it was also like I think Grand Campaign did need a break because that was like its fourth or fifth season. That was like five, and a season can sometimes go on for about 6 months. We've kind of shortened it down because it's better to get more seasons than longer seasons because longer seasons can kind of drag on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you get a team that's consistently like on their last leg for
Yeah,
a month. You know,
and
that really drags on for units and guys get discouraged and
yeah,
Yeah, you really want like a euthanasia option for the Grand Campaign
and
at
kind of
times. In the end.
what we've done this time, this season is we've kind of made it like a mini campaign. So we're just doing the Eastern campaign, whereas instead of it being the whole of like the whole of the Confederate and Union states, it's just the Eastern flag, like the Eastern theater, because and we've kind of upped money and manpower, so it's just more of like constant like back and forth sort of bloody fights instead of it being like a week of like 4 turns of regiments just managing to get around each other because the map's so big and there's only like 5 or 6 tokens aside, which I think is kind of working out okay this season. To be fair, it's lasted longer than I thought, but I think it's gonna be coming to an end soon. I feel like there's only maybe about a month or so left of it. I reckon of
Yeah.
this season.
I
But
mean,
I
like,
would
I
go on. Sorry.
sorry.
No, no, go on.
So I do remember actually when it comes to Grand Campaign, back when I wasn't an officer, when I just became an officer, Pixel, I know, who's my lieutenant, he really likes Grand Campaign, or he's actually proposed several times, oh, maybe we should go back to Grand Campaign and trying something new out. Uh, my only issue still, and this is just a me issue basically, and that is, yeah, Steam chat. I remember being a part of Grand Campaign once. I do remember I loved the campaign part and all those kind of things, but when the communication of Steam chat, when I heard spam pings, like I don't know how many times, it just got too much. I felt like, am I supposed to handle this and that at the same time while thinking strategically, thinking tactically? That's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
it became so stressful.
the fun thing about Grand Campaign is if you want to be involved in like the board, you can sign up as a token, and if you want to like some regiments sign up as just mercs where they get to just pretty much come whenever they please. Like some regiments might do UEC, for example, and then come to Grand Campaign another week. I don't think it happens that much anymore, but like that's the kind of fun of it because it's like obviously merc regiments, it kind of might mess up the balance somewhat because it means that some weeks you might have more CSA than USA and then vice versa, but it's fairly manageable like HRE with the balance and stuff, but yeah,
I
I
think
mean, if any regiments are out there, Jesus, are listening,
Advertising.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And if
shameless
you
plug. Go for it.
if you wanna come and test it out, and that goes for all of you mandem in here, feel free to come along for a week. Grand Campaign. Actually, don't do it in the next like 3 weeks, okay? Because I'm at Cream. I'm partying at a festival this weekend, and I'm on a work night out next weekend. So do it the weekend after. Give me 3 weeks to persuade your guys.
I
But
think the thing I remember from Grand Campaign is it was a much more. If you think about like regular events in the community, in fact, this goes on for years, and if you really trace it back, War of Rights as a game, anyone who's been here for a long time, like and played nearly all the maps, like probably nearly everyone here, and some of the guys listening as well. I see Rawlins is listening. Rawlins has been around a while too, but like we've all played these games, every map, how many times? I don't know. But you bring in a game method like Grand Campaign, and as Gareth was saying, it gives you a reason and something more to fight for, which means that your highs are multiplied, like they're really, you know, exponentially higher, and then your lows are a lot lower as well. So the good thing with that is, even in the low points, it gives you a reason to come back and be like, yeah, we want revenge now, you know.
I
And
mean,
then the
yeah,
high points, you're buzzing literally off your face,
this
like, you know.
Well, the other thing is, because this Grand Campaign, casualties matter. So say you get the most attacker bias map and you're the defender, you go, well, we've got no chance. We're not going to win. On the other hand, it's Grand Campaign, casualties. How many of them can you kill before you go down? Because at some point in the campaign, roles will be reversed.
yeah,
Yeah,
So it's not necessarily just how you can win, it's how you lose on really biased maps will actually help the overall campaign. So that as well helps people stay interested even on a lost cause.
yeah. mean, like the Union at the beginning were losing week on week on week this campaign, and it became down to being like the CSA had 10. So we do obviously 2 maps a week. So the CSA had like 10 map wins, and the Union only had like 2. And the Unions managed to. They've been fighting back pretty hard. They're doing like a Ukrainian style offensive at the minute. It's like they're pushing back and they're kind of retaking their territory. And it's like even if you're not the regiment in charge, you still have to fight for your side, because every loss that you take also affects your whole side, not just, that one regiment who's in charge of that battle. So it's like everyone has something to fight for in Grand Camp. Even if you're a Merc regiment, you're still representing the interests of the token holder.
I just have one question about Grand Campaigns. It's the 8th floor doesn't, most of the UEC doesn't actually go to Grand Campaign, even though we actually did a UEC Grand Campaign, which ended as ended 6th. Do you have casualties in it, and in the way, like for example, information equals wounded, skirmish equals death, and out of line equals prisoners? Or
No,
deserters? Do you do something like that or no?
we
No,
don't
dead is
actually.
dead. That's it.
Dead is dead. I mean, that like that's the kind of thing that we could that could be implemented that would like not necessarily change the campaign too much, but it would also be like kind of make it slightly more interesting in terms of losses, because if outer liners don't necessarily come off the token, well they will, but they can benefit the other team, then there's an element of that might end up reducing the amount of outer liners during in a match, which would be pretty interesting.
Mhm.
I'd say in general, like we try to keep it at least the last couple seasons as basic as possible to get it up and running again, because obviously I pretty much started it from scratch again, like trying to get all the regiments and stuff involved, since obviously I'm gonna call it the Great Fire of 2021 or 2020.
The Black Death.
The Black Death, god
Yeah.
damn it, I remember that still.
But yeah, like back in the day, there used to be like I remember 4th New Jersey was there, and were you guys sixth US back then?
Oh, you're talking back in the days of
5th US.
Pleasanton's division,
Oh, no,
actually, my
Pleasant's,
friends,
yeah,
Oh
right?
yeah,
PD, yeah.
oh
That's a
god,
long
yeah.
time ago.
Pleasant, PD,
PD.
police department.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously 2nd US used to be big in it back in the day as well, and a lot of the current UEC regiments now they used to do it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of GC's reputation did kind of get destroyed because of internal
Certain
dramas
individuals.
and certain individuals that don't actually play War of Rights anymore.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's the annoying thing with the old GC. Again, I have the new one's perfectly fine. It's just the old one for me. It was more a case of if you have an event that means that much and you have no one responsible for like adminning it or stepping in as an impartial. If something goes wrong, who solves it, right? That's kind of
Yeah.
what that old one was missing. Whenever something went wrong, there was no real like mediation between the two sides. So the thing that went wrong either festered or it exploded in front of everyone, and it just made everything worse. You know,
Yep.
I mean,
but I don't think that's as much an issue anymore. I think it was more just an old
But
thing
but that's
and very
also down to
specific at the time.
that was also down to the rules of the campaign and also the board rules, because
Yeah.
if there's if there's certain rules, like before we introduced the last stand rule, if regiments were down to 100 manpower, they would hide at the back of the map. Now if they get
Yeah.
oh god. I
now
remember that.
if they get less than 500 and they lose, they totally get wiped. So it gives them, there's still going to be a battle. Even if they lose 500 men, they're not going to get wiped, because that obviously they're just not going to fight then, because there's no point, because either way they're going to lose. Whether they fight and win, they still lose all their manpower, and vice versa. So it's like when I think I'm not even going to blow my own horn here, but I think I was the one that introduced, like that gave Agent that idea of the last stand rule back in the day, when I was like
Yeah.
his little lapdog. I remember that.
Little lapdog, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Playing around with all the bags of tokens and stuff. Oh, come on,
exactly.
killer. I think if
Yeah.
there's one thing you can kind of take from all of this, it's you can hear on each of these days you have at least two options on the European side, right? So Saturday,
Yeah.
and in fact, there's more than two. There's another event. I can't remember the name of this, a bit smaller, but like the
Oh
main two
yeah.
almost You have UEC if you like a maybe slightly more decelerated experience, but trust me, it's a lot faster paced than anyone expects. Or if you like the big grand style tactician style gameplays, your grand campaign. Same thing on Sunday. You've got Hatchery and you've got Generals at War, and I imagine it's the
Same
same thing
as
on Friday as well.
same as Friday. Yeah, we got the community event and
Exactly. So there's so much
UEC.
variety. Like, don't be fooled into thinking all the European events are the same. If you don't like one, there's almost definitely one which is of a different character that you will like. So best thing you can do is
See,
get out there and try them.
that's the
And
thing
if you
If
about
you
don't like
won't
the
one,
try,
go to the
you'll
other.
never know.
that's the thing about the European events. Other than Friday EU, every other European event is War of Rights with a twist. You know, like Grand Campaign has its like battle modifying cards that can change the way people have to play, and obviously the casualties mattering means that people don't just run around crazy. Obviously, some people do, Lucian. But
Get out.
I'm gonna get a
Oh,
message
why you
off him
gotta
after
name
he
drop?
watches this. I'm gonna get a message after
I
him.
feel you're being
You're gonna
very
get a
unfair
lot
right
of
now. I think
yeah.
he'd
yeah.
actually publicly apologise
He's
to
gonna
Lucian
ping
right
Yeah.
now.
me in the Grand Campaign Discord, being like, "What the hell, man?"
Cancel killer.
But and then obviously, you know, on Sunday you've got GAW, which is normal War of Rights, but with the twist of there's one guy on either side who is in charge solely of that, you know, of the strategy. And then obviously you got UEC and HRE, which is War of Rights, but with a more like historical twist. So it's like it's different to the NA ones, where NA Friday and NA Sunday is just like the community ones are just basic, you know, War of Rights, and like Saturday is the only different one because there's literally no other events but GOA and the two campaigns. Which GOA is GOA like? Is that just pretty much just normal? But like, is that a bit more like HRE, but HR bit like the middle of HRE and normal?
I go to GOA on that's actually the one NA event we do on Saturdays. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on it. If anyone wants to find out more, definitely go to like Irish or Kevin or someone. But GOA is it's not as strict for sure as your HREs, your UEC style events. It's definitely got more in place than a public event, so you won't have like random stuff happening non-stop and getting popped out of nowhere. Of course, on every event, there's people that get carried away in Rambo, but the point is the event does not condone that and they deal with it. Um, but yeah, the event itself is there's no bigger thing to GOA. There is on War of Brothers on Sunday, which is
I was
your
just gonna
NA
say
Sunday
on
event. But
Sunday
the
War
GOA
Brothers, yeah.
event, yeah, it's actually quite fun. It's very competitive. It's very fast paced. But it's got more in place than just a pub, you know, like a jump in and play.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I actually go to that's the one NA event I go to, and that's a good thing to remember is there's events on both time zones which are comparable and equally enjoyable. So just get out
yeah.
there and find the one that you like, really.
Other than Steam chats, Victor,
Oh
because
god, yeah.
from what I've noticed in HRE, you are a pretty big stickler for
Messengers.
slowing things down a little bit. Like when I'm not gonna name names, A and V, kind of, you know, actually and Hood's division really, because obviously there was a big influx when we closed down the Sunday EU community event, and we all got together and pretty much decided let's go to HRE, like us, Ninth Corps, Hood's division, 6th Alabama, I can't remember who else, and we
JD as well. Come.
JD, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a
JD,
couple other little ones too that pop
yeah,
in every now and again.
and we all decided to go to HRE because it's easier to combine the two events and make them bigger than have two smaller events. So,
Yeah.
like,
I
I
do
feel
I
like,
do notice I tailor how I play when I see, for example, yourself. Like the last few games, the last few weeks, you've been playing Union a lot more in HRE. Well, I know you play Union a lot anyway, but in HRE
yeah,
specifically.
yeah,
And a good example is when we did like Cox's Push. You know, as Union, that's sometimes a very difficult map if you struggle to make any inroads. But we essentially on that map when we had Killer and A and V with
We
us, and
kept capping,
no,
basically.
no, not
We
even that.
no?
It's whenever me and Killer advanced down the wall, we pretty much did it on either side and we swept through anything in front of us because we just both went in together. Normally, I wouldn't play that aggressively, but you know, you got to know who you're playing with.
in
And
that in that event though, I was very happy because the first time we did it, we got a lot of kills, but we lost. Whereas when I was in the middle of the field on the half stone wall, and I just said screw it, and I pushed down the half stone wall towards the cornfield, and then they pushed out of the cornfield towards Cap, and we kind of met at that tree.
Yeah.
you guys, and I can't remember who, it might have been Ninth Corps, pushed down the wall at like the same time, and that's how we ended up managing to take it. And I'm
Yeah.
actually,
Oh, it's 20th Georgia. They were
20th,
right next to us,
yeah.
and we saw that you went in, and we were like, great,
Yeah,
that'll
and
do.
see, like, I'm gonna blow my own horn again. Just saying, when it came to strategy, that whole left push was my plan. Because see, Gareth likes to make jokes about me going in front of artillery, but when it comes to artillery, like, all it does is it just like kind of installs a little bit of fear of the guys being like, oh my god, we're gonna get hit again. But artillery most of the time doesn't do that much damage. It'll get like 1 or 2
I,
kills.
I can tell
I
you
am
though.
so reminding you of that
Okay.
comment.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
So here's
on
when it comes
Cox's.
to artillery, if I just can just jump in 1 second, because I just have to say, because 100% I can understand that, but also at the same time, last Bolivar Heights readout, that
It's map
was
specific.
Yeah.
It's map
it is
specific if the
really map
artillery is worth
specific.
it. Like,
To be
Yeah,
it can win you the
yeah.
game based on, if you think about when we do hatchery on like Nicodemus Hill, I
Yeah.
nearly always insist on going on the cannons because I will bomb the
Yeah.
apps, the ever loving. No swear words, BLN, love you. We'll bomb
You
the ever
can
loving
swear on
left out of
BLN.
the.
It's not child friendly.
Oh, was it not? Okay. Bomb the
No.
ever loving
Okay.
shit out of the left hand flank of the Union just past the woods, the CSA's hard right, because I know we can. And there's some maps where the artillery. I think you had this debate actually, didn't you? On
We did have an
is
artillery
artillery
debate.
worth it? And
Yeah.
my ultimate answer is it's completely specific to the map. A lot of maps is pointless. Certain
Like
maps
Reno's
it will
Fall.
turn you the game. Yeah, Reno's Fall. Just why are you bothering? Give up on
I've
life.
seen
No, I'm
people
kidding.
do that though.
Yeah.
That's the worst problem.
I
And try to
mean,
convince
I
them to
it's
get off
like
it.
it's a
I
case of
completely agree with like everything you said there. Where some maps it's completely useless, or you can build a wall out of it, and that's about the extent that you can use it. But
yeah,
Artie also instills to keep units in check, in my opinion,
yeah,
instead of completely going way out of their way and way off out in the field or somewhere essentially where they're not normally at when it comes to kind of basic rock paper scissors tactics in this game. If they're trying to do something kind of out of the box or out of the ordinary, that artillery will put that unit in check real fast.
yeah.
It, if I may just go back to, I remember. Sorry, we were starting to talk about now artillery.
Cox's.
You had a question regarding, what was it? You guys and what was it, Six Alabama moving over to HRE from public
Yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah. So I feel like when all of us came over, that definitely kind of sped up the pace of HRE, which
Oh yeah, no, it did. But
obviously you
you go ahead.
you you got slightly frustrated about in certain debriefs, which I understand because obviously we're not going to be able to completely, like, when we do Friday and Saturday, they're pretty much the same paced events. So sometimes when it comes to Sunday, it's a lot harder to switch off from doing normal pace stuff. And same with like not having bayonets, and because like
Yeah, I
our
catch myself with the
yeah
bayonet quite a
our
bit.
emphasis,
Or
like,
running,
yeah,
like when you're not supposed
yeah,
to run too early.
the way that
I
we
catch
drill
myself doing
the
that.
way that we drill our guys is as soon as you spawn in, bayonets first, no matter what, unless you get told
Yeah.
otherwise. And it's like on a Sunday, even I sometimes mess up because my usual thing is, all right, we're CSA bottom A full kits, and I'll sometimes say it, and then Gareth will have to be like, no, no, no bayonets, just re.
Yeah.
I
If
think
it's
I
any
do it.
I
consolation,
mean,
I do it all the time as
Yeah, I think I
well.
have to
But
do it every week, and it's just little things like that that I feel like, and also the fact of, even though it's slower, like it's a slower paced event, I still try and make it as fast paced as possible. Like on that
that is
Reno's
fine.
Fall one we did a couple weeks ago, that Battle
Yeah, I
Line
remember
Network
that. Yeah.
recorded. Yeah, like I think I was up into your guys' faces within like by like 37 minutes.
but
You
We
you,
know,
didn't
you but
expect
you
you
but you
to.
double quicked up into their faces. The
we
Yeah,
important
did
things.
actually.
exactly.
We did.
One of the things is because, like, during that situation, we didn't expect you to attack without bayonets at the double quick. If you know what I mean, like getting that close at the double quick without bayonets.
Oh yeah, I
We
was
thought that
panicking.
would be impossible,
I
basically.
was I was panicking because if one of you had saw us and you had got all those
Did
guys, the
almost see you. That's the
Hood's
worst
division.
part, basically.
Yeah, if Hood's division that was on those logs had like been notified and they'd formed on that wall, we would have been screwed.
Yeah.
But we I risked it for a biscuit. But it's like that's what makes it kind of fun is like that 10-minute rule that you guys added. I I actually really enjoy it because
I enjoy the 10-minute rule as
it
well.
does slow it actually slows me down, and it just makes it a bit more fun. It's a bit more of a shootout. It's a bit more of like
I
a
mean,
slows it
yeah,
down. But then
100%.
all it means is after that 10-minute rule, as the attacking side, you've lost 10 minutes pretty much. where you could
I would
have
actually
done
say
one or two melees in that time on certain maps anyway.
I would actually say when it comes to like as you talked about, like a lot of NA guys maybe complain about specifically like UEC. I would actually say that H3 were much more stricter with rules, and also I think with sometimes, especially when it comes to the first 10 minutes, were much slower when it comes to fighting, because it's going to be mostly shooting in the beginning. So in that regard, I would actually say that our admins are much more. I wouldn't say no, not aggressive, but we're much more hands-on, I suppose. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot more. To be honest, you're right. Again, another myth. UEC is nowhere near as strict as people say. In fact, if you want a stricter European event, come see Hatchery.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
I
But when it
when
comes to Hatchery, the funny thing is, you mentioned about when Hoods and AMV and Sixth Alabama came over, and we at first were a bit frustrated at the change of pace. But as a result of you coming over, we then made the changes such as that 30-minute rule, which, to
Exactly.
be honest, we'd have never have done without you coming over. And ironically, this is the funniest thing of it all, both sides enjoy it more, as in both sides, the guys who play more aggressively and the guys that are more used to standing and shooting. So,
Yeah.
to be honest, there really wasn't no loss from it. What we did is slow down the first 10 minutes of the game. We have, I'm not even kidding, some of the best line battles I've ever seen has been in the first 10 minutes of HRE,
are you
when you
talking
have
about that?
entire lines of AMV and the Hoods and all of the regular guys, which, again, not being rude, probably wouldn't normally see you do it, right? But here you are standing in a massive line of 100 guys exchanging
Are you
fire.
talking about that
It's
one time on
beautiful.
hills when we came down that left side and we just, instead of us charging in bats, we just lined up like 10 yards away from, I think it was like Fort New Jersey or
I
something?
Oh
wasn't even
wow.
thinking of that, but that's another example. I was actually thinking, do you remember Burnsides when it was
Yes.
AMV
Yes,
was
Oh,
on
that
the
was good.
side of the
yeah,
hill looking up to the stone wall,
yeah.
and you were just standing there exchanging fire with the Union for a good 5 minutes. Like
Oh
it
yeah, I
was,
remember
I
that.
was
Yeah.
admining that round, and it was one of the coolest things to watch. Just watching you try and work out how do we get around this. Like,
Didn't we flank LFL before that too?
yeah, you flanked the unit on the
You did.
way to that position.
Yeah, see, it's
It
like
was
that. That's
yeah.
kind of like our thing. Like that kind of other regiments won't necessarily do is like mostly it's head to head, like face to face, whereas like with me, I like to constantly keep. We're like a skirmish. We're like a 20 to 25 man skirmish group sometimes, and
Yeah.
like instead of as big lines, you'd think they'd be like kind of like formed up fighting other lines kind of thing, but we're always trying to find ways to like get around people, you know what I mean, a lot more than
Yeah.
standing and fighting.
I
Like
think. Yeah. Go ahead.
we're an aggressive line battler.
I
Yeah.
mean,
One hundred
if you
percent. Oh, good.
if you're in a blob like this, especially I've seen the LFL does it.
Yeah.
Um, it's basically there's a since I don't know if it's a bug feature at this point I don't even know. But if you blob and some guys are in front, they are acting as skirmishers by the
Mm,
game.
yeah.
They're not even information. And when you play in events like this where everybody is trying to be information and so on, you're actually making it bad for your team. Same goes with Rambos and stuff. Like, yes, we have rules about the Rambos and all, but to be honest, it's only loss for your team and not yourself as
Yeah.
such.
Yeah. And that's
And then
like
they're
kind of
also
how it
very annoying.
differs. Yes, I hate Rambos. It's just like it's just the annoyance of like you're walking with your line and you've got like a good plan in mind and you're about to execute it, and then all of a sudden one shot pops off and then you're dead, and then it just ruins like 10 seconds of you trying to either explain to like me trying to explain to Gareth what I was going to do, or me being like, all right, just hold there and blah blah blah, I'll be back in like 10 seconds. It's just that's why I hate Rambos with a burning passion. And that used to be a big thing back in Grand Campaign, was we like there was a no ramboing rule, which I don't really like no ramboing rules when, well, I guess for you guys it's different because you have like spectators, whereas in Grand Campaign we didn't have those, or we didn't have like spectators that would call people out for ramboing. So it was a case of we had a no ramboing rule, but there was no way of policing it or
Yeah.
being
Enforcing it,
like,
yeah.
yeah, or like, who was that Rambo? It's just like, oh, if one guy wants to run around and, Rambo, he can, because as long as nobody finds out who he is, nothing's gonna get done about it.
Yeah, by the third time you see him run into a fucking line and he
Yeah,
gets shot in the face, you finally
Yeah.
run out there to see who it is.
Yeah, and it's
I would
just
say that's a big thing. On so the one NA event we do is GOA, and actually recently they spectate their events and they're really good on it. But when we first started going to it, they instead of having active spectators that would be the admins and obviously make sure no one's doing something silly or something they shouldn't do, they had a kind of self-policing of your own side. So they'd have an admin who's kind of responsible on the USA and on the CSA. But the issue with that is you don't ever really see the problems if you're playing on the field. And
yeah,
then when the problem comes up, sure, you can jump and spectate, but it's probably gone by the time you're there.
yeah,
So, and now recently they've been doing a little bit more like what we do in HRE and in the UEC as well, where you have a nominated person who watches over the match and, you know, they nip the problems in the bud or they call them out. And if you know you're going to get called out, a lot of people, they don't do it as much anymore, funnily enough.
yeah.
So it makes a big difference.
When we did
Make more
UEC, we just had Jack Stone running up to us every 5 minutes, just complimenting on our amazing undrilled double ranks. Do you remember those guys?
What the fuck?
But that
Which is
was like,
amazing because usually our guys can't even form a line.
oh yeah, yeah. It was nice that we had an auto shark fence to form on too, but it was like I didn't expect. I think I overbrought for that event too. I know classic, but we've actually been underbringing more than
What?
overbringing recently. But that's just war rights times. I hate summer. Summer's horrible. Who goes out in the sun? You know what I mean? What's so
For
fun
winter,
about
No,
it?
definitely.
I guess a
um,
northerner, you don't even know what the sun is.
I mean, it's
just
so cold up. You go ahead, sorry. You go ahead.
just to be fair about the Rambos, sometimes it's unlucky. We do not really give bans for Rambos unless it's a serious case. We're literally just Rambo, not even sticking to a unit. So we're just giving
Yeah,
out the fair warnings that, hey, did you notice that your guys are dead? You're Ramboing because a lot of guys after the charge there due to the fog of war because nobody can tell them, right?
yeah.
Nope.
Nobody can tell them that, hey, your entire unit is dead, and the guy is just chasing the flag. So we obviously, at least I let him when I do the admin. And then after that, when he stops, I tell him that, hey, buddy, you know your company just disintegrated in a melee charge. Can you please return to your unit?
It's like I think one of the last times we did UEC, other than the time we did it at the start of this year, the reason why we stopped doing it was because we had a skirmish regiment in ENV. I think we might have been Irish Legion at the time, and they had a big problem with not liking to join in with the line. And since the like obviously you had different skirmishing rules back then, and I think
Still the same.
was it still the same? I can't remember.
Yeah, I
But
think if you think
No,
about
it's
yeah,
H3,
yeah,
yeah, it's as in HRE, I believe so.
yeah,
we
and
have a little bit different, but you have I think it's like designated skirmishes in that regard. We have
Well, either your entire unit is a skirmisher, or you can send three
yeah,
plus one or 5+1.
yeah. Well,
and
then it's quite similar to H3 in that regard.
Gareth, I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember when all of First SC got kicked out? All
No,
skirmish
wait,
company got they all got kicked out the server, and I was
I
like,
wasn't there.
yeah, I was like, I told you guys, no, this would have been back in like, it would have been like 2022 or 2021. It was a long time ago. We didn't do a
I was
UEC
probably
event.
drunk.
We didn't do a UEC event for like a year. We didn't do one for like a whole year before we did that one at the start of this year. Um, but yeah, it was it was funny because I was just like, I told you so, and yeah, they got really mad, so we didn't do UEC for a long time. But it's
that and then you would hope, a competent unit nowadays wouldn't want their guys to Rambo in general
hmm
from the North American side or European side. You still get it. You
yeah,
still get the guy that, oh, I've played 3,000 hours on the game. I'm just here to do, all fuck all on
trader from
his
PB,
time.
trader from PB, question mark.
Um, or you just have the guy that's lost and he's off Rambo and just trying to enjoy the game. That's where, it is nice to have Discord come in handy where you can, spoon feed that
Yeah,
individual.
Yeah,
I mean, we've actually allowed. There's been several situations actually in HRE when we talk about, for example, one of the rules is, of course, you cannot talk. Basically, you cannot communicate with your team directly, except for only like one thing that's like regroup at spawn or something like that.
Hmm.
Basically,
yeah,
like that in HRE. but I know there are some units with, how to say, elderly folk that
Second United
sometimes.
States Cavalry.
Okay. Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, those are the guys. I still love them though, but I remember talking about. I've heard about a guy who fell asleep. I've heard about a guy who just got lost and joined with another unit. Actually, the
Fell
enemy
asleep.
unit started firing against the against the Union. But anyhow, so they're actually allowed sometimes to call like, "Hey, wake up!" or "Hey, get over here" to these guys because, well, otherwise they would be completely lost and just be
Right.
sitting in a bush the entire game. Sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, we have. I was joking in my Discord today about having a mandatory ANV retirement age. Because we have this
Oh
one
wow.
other we have this one other Welsh guy named Taff, PFC Taff, and he just he plays on a little laptop. He's like in his 60s, and I don't know if he's got the shakes or what, but he just can't help but stab friendlies or like he'll aim straight and then all of a sudden he'll shoot left. And like we formed a line and shot the other day, and he was one of the first people to form up, and he still managed to shoot the sergeant major in the back of the head.
Team kills enabled.
Oh no, we don't do that on Fridays and Saturdays because I host and
Ah.
I don't trust
Well,
my guys enough.
that's kind of funny because my major has his dad as a private, and his dad is like 59. He's gonna be 60. That dude is one of the best sharpshooters I've ever met. He listens to orders, he does everything, but he does not speak. He only
Oh.
speaks unless he's like the small talker. But
Mm.
probably that's because internet and stuff. You ask him something, he responds in like with 2 or 3 words max. Then he goes silent. But I don't know. Like, if you tell him to shoot at somebody at 200 yards, he will just hit it. I don't understand. I just don't.
Well, I think you
I
all
don't
know.
know.
You probably all know Chaplain Jeff, man.
Oh god,
No,
yeah.
Bless him.
really?
He's
Mr. Murdoch.
I think he's 66 this year, and
What?
he goes
Yeah.
through moments of he literally will just go crazy and kill everything in front of him. Like, it's kind of funny because it's like I normally think it's like some kind of righteous intervention from God. That's just decided to like ignite his holy sword
Righteous
and he just
intervention.
Yeah.
kills everyone, you know. But like he'll
Crusader.
just go mad sometimes, like in a charge, like we'll be going forwards and most of us have died. I just hear Jeff still going, hey, and just killing everyone. Like, and he
Oh,
asks in Discord, like, oh my god, I'm the last one left and I don't want to Rambo. And I'm like, wait, how the hell did you do
poor
Yeah.
Taff. Like if we're in last stand and I spectate him and we get charged, like half the time he's still in like right shoulder shift, and I'm like, Taff, what are you doing? Taff, he's right there. Taff,
He
Taff,
might
and
be
then
aiming down sights. Don't be
you'll
fooled.
you'll get killed, and then like 5 seconds later you'll just hear some Welsh mumbling in Discord, and that's
No.
he's like deep in the Welsh lands. Like Gareth is Welsh, but he doesn't say. He just sounds like a posh English twat. But sorry, I'm a posh English gentleman. But yeah, like Taff, he's just as Welsh as they be really. And it's half the Americans don't understand him. They're like, how do you know what he's saying? And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, I don't have a clue what he's
It's
saying.
some ramblings. Try to use some Morse code to fucking translate it.
It just sounds like mumble, like Welsh mumble
Yeah.
to them.
Do you know, that's a very understated part of the European side of the game as well. How many
Oh
languages
god.
do we have present
Oh
is
yeah,
crazy. Like
Don't
you have whole
remind me
units
of shit.
dedicated to languages. Like,
yeah.
there's a lot of people obviously know of the German groups, the French groups, you even have Italian groups. There's been
Russians.
Spanish groups, yeah, there's Russian groups, exactly. There's so many languages present in not just the events that we've talked about, but in the whole European side of the game. But the things when we're talking about like communicating outside of Steam chats and things, you think about on the field, you run up to a unit which maybe English isn't their first language, but you
Yeah.
run up to them and try and communicate, and
Well,
it's kind of fun. It can be annoying, but it's also kind of fun when you have
we
to try and
used to
actually do that.
obviously
I mean,
LFL used to be a part of ANV back when they were Cobb's Legion,
oh yeah, that's right.
and we like there was obviously a language barrier, but I feel like I definitely had a lot more patience than some of the other line leaders we may have when it came to communicating with them. Um,
I don't disagree.
yeah, and
Some are worse than others when it
Some
comes
yeah,
to.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, some people just don't have the patience, like, at all.
yeah, and we didn't really have any sort of big problems when it came to that department. But yeah, it's fun. I reckon it installs a lot of a lot of diversity, which it can be like
Does the
when you
Well,
go.
Euro
it goes back to what these guys were saying too, adapting to the play style with who you're playing with on that battlefield, more
Yeah,
or less.
yeah, like when I
Um,
used to charge in and we'd get wiped, and then all of a sudden I would hear bagpipes and then just loads of French rambling over my dead body, and I was
mhm.
like, Cobbs is in to help, and it would just be so much fun. It's funny listening to them sometimes when they're like because they're just like some people think that those kinds of communities like the German, French, Italians and stuff that they're all like super serious and all that, but they're just as like fun and open and jokey as the English speaking ones.
They are.
it's
They're
kind
just
of
doing it in their own way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're being serious, but they're having fun, and also it's quite funny to actually know the unit by the language they speak or their accent. Like for example, you know that if you meet somebody who speaks Russian, Ukrainian, Belarus, you know it's third Alabama in the UEC. And most people don't understand them, but if you do understand them, you would laugh your ass off.
Yeah.
For example, like me.
The
So,
only the
but
only
sometimes
issue
big glad we don't.
the only issue I get with it sometimes, well, it's not really an issue for me, but like when we did have the French, a lot of the time I would have to deal because obviously I was, quote unquote, the ANV commander, and like the amount of like stick that those types of communities get in the
Oh yeah.
public community and even in some events too.
Now in H3 events, they've been like, for example, there's been so many times where
Yeah,
we've actually had to go in and basically say, can we stop with the French bashing because it's
yeah.
actually ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
you
French
know
disagree.
the
Yeah,
worst
we
one
French
for
ran
was
that
a
into the
was
big
same thing.
it was a
the
big
worst one for that
thing.
was Picket Patrol. Do you remember Picket Patrol? Like for a while, actually Picket Patrol is another Wednesday European event.
Yeah,
Go to
yeah.
that if you don't already. But a lot of
Oh
the
yeah,
time in that,
we're still on our
not
break
so
for
much
the game.
nowadays, but like a good like 4 or 5 months ago there was just like constant people like joking about the French are going to retreat or some stupid
Yeah,
stereotype
yeah.
and half the
I
time
hate it. I hate it,
they're
man.
doing nothing wrong. I think the people that get it the worst is if you've ever been in a public game and the German call boys, they always all jump in together. And people love to shit on them
Yeah,
because they play together, but they always forget to mention that the fact they play together means they lose almost no tickets.
yeah.
So even if they're not killing like a massive amount, like you think, oh, they've got 12 guys, they can demolish that group of 20 in front of them because they're organized. Well, guess what? If they only lose 6 guys in formation and they shoot another 10 out of line, then how big a contribution is that to your side
There's
that you're just
see,
ignoring?
I always see differences in the way that like those types of communities get bashed. Like if it's from like European, like British people, for example, it's always like if it's like the French, it's always to do with like how the French English kind of have that little historical
Little
rivalry.
rivalry, yep, yep.
Yeah. When it comes
Yeah.
to like Americans in those types of communities. I don't know why, but even when it comes to like UK people too, Americans always seem to have like a comment to say about Europeans playing a video game just because it's
Yes,
based on the American Civil War. And
Yeah.
how many of those people play Holdfast or Mountain Blade Napoleonic
Yeah.
Wars?
Ay, ay,
And
ay.
I bet they don't get that kind of comments over there. And it's just like it's funny to me sometimes. I always laugh at it. And my normal
you're not wrong.
comeback is because it's always just about because they need the help because they can't do it on their own.
Not, I
And
mean, if you want to really get historical, I mean, down to it, and don't quote me on any of it, but there was European help in the Civil
Yeah.
War. Like
Yeah.
it was
Immigrants, I
there.
suppose.
Especially from British.
Well,
Us
well,
British
yeah.
boys, yeah. Well, the
Yeah,
Irish
yeah.
as well. Don't include Ireland with Britain because that'll cause some
The
shit. But yeah,
oh god, the bloody Irish.
famous Enfields that didn't work from
That
in the Union Army.
Yeah, that just boils down to that American entitled bullshit attitude, in my opinion.
But I mean that kind of bases down to the whole opinions on the historical style of play. It's all about that. Like I don't know why, just the Americans always seem to have a problem with the
They have
Europeans
a problem
playing
with everybody, even their own.
the Europeans play the game more like the way it's supposed to be played than the Americans do, but they also seem to have a problem with us playing the game the way it's kind of supposed to be played.
for me, it's more specific than that. I wouldn't say it's they necessarily don't play the game. It's how it's supposed to be played because ultimately this is a game. I think each
Yeah, you can
side has
play
Oh,
merits
however
to
you
play
yeah.
it how
want.
they want. But for me, the bigger thing is when it comes to like, I mean, the best example I can give is the reenactment events, right? So a lot of the times, I can think of a number of individuals who I won't name, but they've kind of shit all over the European play style or
Sevi.
how we do events, and then they asked to join the reenactment events, which is the ultimate scripted, slow-paced, decelerated
Right.
experience where you go through a script and you honor and commemorate something that happened roughly now 160 years ago, right? And
You
it's
got
kind of frustrating when we put in fact, I'm going to name drop somebody here, but for good reason. A
Yeah.
guy who plays for the 52nd New York called Andrew Walsh. He
Andrew Walsh, yeah.
literally creates the most in-depth scripts you'll ever meet in your life for these events, and he spends weeks on them. And I guarantee you, there's nobody better in the entire community that could do it. But then when we have to kind of have to deal with the shit of that, when he's put in so much time, and the level of detail is honestly astonishing. If you ever get a chance to see the reenactment event scripts, then you'll be amazed. Like, and then we have to kind of put up with them applying to the events that they've shat all over. It's kind of frustrating.
see, this is the kind of thing that I think of it is. It's more like they're coming with their tail between their legs because obviously it's mainly the people towards the top of the regiments that always say these things out publicly in these kinds of like battle line network videos and stuff and podcasts. Whereas they're not really representing what their guys think. So when their guys go and start asking to do these reenactment events because they look interesting, they're not going to turn around and say no, so they kind of have to then suck it up and do it.
Cater. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is, though, how many people here were in early access? Who bought the game before it was available on Steam?
I actually bought a, what's it called? What was that
The
website
Kickstarter
called?
thing.
Yeah. Here's a worse part. I was pretty young during that time, and I was like, so if you buy this amount of money, you get first lieutenant. What? So I thought it was a commission or something like that. You would buy that shit. So I actually bought it, and I remember then when I was like, I think it was so long ago, and I was like 15 or something like that, or 16. So basically, when they actually released it on Steam, I was like, "Where's my first lieutenant?" Oh wait, everyone is available.
Yeah.
Oh, you just get a backer thing. Oh, okay. That's what
Well,
I thought, but I
'cause
was pretty young during that time, so
the only reason I say this is that when it first went live, this whole forming lines and that's how it was, both NA and EU.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
was, basically just the guys who wanted to do line battle. It didn't matter where the point was or anything. Everyone would just group up, have two big lines in the middle of a field, just blasting the crap out of each other. And it's slowly over time, as obviously some guys, a lot of those guys
I
leave and new players come in, and then, faster movement during, say,
It
battles.
was, I agree with you. It was
Yeah,
quite a bit
the,
more
ma- the main
organized, like
tactic,
right face, left face, double column, like everybody would mark. Like it
yeah,
seemed like
the,
there
the
was
main
more of
tactic that you
that.
had to learn was when to charge or not. Because you have these two lines slowly getting closer. Okay, now we've reloaded. Okay, go 10 yards closer, shoot, see what they do. Are they going to charge us? Are they going to shoot? And that was basically the sum total of the tactics because that's how people played, even in pubs.
It got a lot more. I think it's based on competitiveness that's changed it over time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
people who joined the community that try to, that they didn't like this play style, or some people who actually play this and they said like they are bored, so they went and did the competitive stuff.
I mean, I think
Like,
it's mainly because obviously, as regiment leaders, which we all are, our main priority is to give entertainment to the guys that turn up under us. And one of the biggest ways to give entertainment is to win, obviously. You know what I mean? Winning is a lot better than losing. I know, obviously, you don't have to be a sore loser.
uh,
You don't have to be a
I
sore
not
mean,
loser, but
really, not really.
well, no. But if you win, it's you come away feeling a lot better than if you
Uh,
were to lose. Like, I'm
well,
not
to
saying
be
that losing
fair,
is losing is bad. Like, if you lose but you put a good fight, you still feel good about yourself. But it's a lot more
well,
enjoyable for, I think, the majority of the enlisted people to
if
win than it is to lose, and that's how you
if I
keep
may just
guys.
jump in 1 second. Yeah, I heard you wanted to say something, Danny, as well, but I just want to say one quick thing, and that is actually I would say when I became an officer in the beginning, I was more okay. Let's look at the track record because you were like I was worried during that time. People are gonna think that I'm a shit officer. We keep on losing or something like that, and it became more of a worry thing. Nowadays, it all depends on what the enlisted guys want in that regard. Like winning is fun, but it's just me like checking off on a track record, not for myself, but more for the unit and basically what we need to improve, what we need to be doing, all those kind of things, and look what we did wrong.
Yeah.
My main thing is if the guys don't have fun and then we win and it was really chaotic, then I have not succeeded. Or if you guys did have fun, like for example last Sunday, and everyone had fun, so they had a blast. We lost both matches, then
Oh,
it
of
was
course, yeah.
success in that regard.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do is, Danny, you can make your point, and then we'll have our little final messages, and then we can close it off for this week.
Yeah.
Basically, Victor said what I wanted. So if you're
Oh,
gonna lose,
sorry.
but you had fun, no, it's alright. Like, if you're gonna lose and you're gonna have fun, wow, cool. That's like, yeah, I had fun. That's why I came here. I didn't came here to win. I came here to have fun. And obviously, I had so many instances where I won, but it was just so chaotic that I just didn't have any fun at all. So
Of course, yeah. All right, so we've came up to around probably just over an hour. So what we'll do is we'll go down the list, and if you have any final messages to say, feel free. So we'll start off with good old Gareth.
I don't think I've got anything particularly important to say. Just if you're an NA guy, you're in an NA reg, then get your unit into some of the EU events just to see what the difference is. See how you like it.
Nice, Parker.
Honestly, Gareth, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, like, there's so many events out there. If you go to one and you don't like it, on the EU side, there's always an alternative. And I think you'll find that a lot of your guys who think they might not like an event, the moment they go to it, they actually find it's their favorite one. So don't be put off by the stereotypes and assumptions. Both the NA side and EU side of the community is great, but enjoy both of them equally because you will if you try.
Danny.
nothing much. Just give it a try. You see if you like it. If not, fair enough. But yeah, do not make any assumptions just based that you read the rules or hear some rumors.
Vic.
Right. I would 100% agree with everyone else, and I just hope that this podcast can actually help a little bit when it comes to Americans understanding maybe how like we're not as stale as maybe a lot of people would think. However, I do think that everyone's a part of this community, both NA and EU, so we should just have fun what we're doing right now.
Agreed. Pollock.
I don't really have much more to add other than what these guys had said, honestly. Um, Got to keep an open mind, especially once you start becoming a bigger unit for you guys that are kind of up and coming, smaller units that are getting bigger. If you are listening, have that open mind. You start not so much representing yourself, you're representing the guys below you, the guys that are spending money on the servers or the team speaker, whatever the case may be. You're talking about people's like hard-earned money. So as a regimental leader, a unit leader, or a company leader, you got to start putting that forward and having more of an open mind. And along with having that open mind, you're also going to find yourself in some interesting predicaments or meeting, new and interesting individuals. You just got to have an open mind and not be so close-minded when it comes to, I guess, enjoying all these events. Or not even, you don't have to enjoy every event. At least have a taste of something and see where it goes. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. There's no bad blood there.
All right, yeah, and from me, pretty much this is the first of hopefully many EU podcasts that I want to be doing, as well as the NA ones once I get those back up and running. And we're going to be kind of pretty much talking about the Europeans, pretty much the side of war rights, and also the opinions of the European community when it comes to certain war rights aspects that I think in the previous like 12 or 13 episodes of the NA one that have been talked about as well. Because obviously there's a lot of different opinions out there when it comes to EU and NA, because obviously they differ in so much cultural ways, never mind just playstyle ways. But yeah, hopefully this will change any of your minds. And if you are an NA player and you don't really do EU events, this podcast is open up to you guys as well. Join the Battleline Network Discord and get the podcast role and sign up to the EU or NA podcasts. And get in on the action. It's not going to be a debate. We don't want to make this a debate. We want to make it a nice, constructive discussion about, how things work. So everyone kind of leaves feeling like they've learned something or they have a new mindset on something. But if you're listening, feel free to comment and all that sort of stuff. Eagle will appreciate it. But other than that, yeah, thank you all for listening. Yee yee, huzzah, God save the king.